Hello, folks. So when I first started teaching at Poly, I was desperate for demonstrations. And so I found this problem in one of the textbooks. And the problem was basically this. You had a ramp at an angle, and you had a bar, metal bar. The ramp was made out of metal, and the bar was made out of metal. And the ramp was attached to a power supply. And the whole setup was bathed in a magnetic field. And you knew how big the magnetic field was. And you knew the dimensions of the system. And the question was, the first question was, what did the polarity of the battery have to be so that the direction of the current flow would be such that the current's interaction with the magnetic field would generate a force that would motivate the charge, or motivate the bar to stop, to not accelerate down the ramp. So if you did a free body diagram on the bar, you'd have gravity down, you'd have a normal force up, and then you have this, if the current direction was correct, you'd have this magnetic force that would be pulling back. And the whole idea was to, number one, figure out what the direction of the current had to be, and from that, figure out what the polarity of the battery had to be. And then number two, figure out how big the force had to be. And so it looked like a great problem, and all I had to do was build it. And so I went ahead and did that, and I created this device right here. Here is the metal. Here are the metal ramps. Here it's at an angle. Here was my bar. I was going to use a horseshoe magnet to generate the magnetic field. It was going to have to slide into the field, but whatever. And so I set it up, and I'm thinking this is going to be great, and I go ahead and put that on it, and nothing happens because of friction. So I'm realizing I'm going to have to bring this up to a pretty good angle to be able to get it to actually slide, and a really good angle to be able to overcome friction pretty easily. And the problem with that is that the power, the current, to be able to overcome that kind of an angle and that kind of gravitational component is going to be pretty good size. So I finally got it all worked out, and I made the thing, and it was sitting up at this huge angle, and I turned the current on, and I dropped this thing on, and it kind of moves a little bit, and then basically it stops. And I'm going, damn, this is great. This really is great. And then I take this thing and I go like this, and it doesn't move, and it doesn't move, and it doesn't move. Basically, I had put so much current through the system that I had spot welded the piece of metal to the aluminum frame here, which meant that another demonstration shot to hell. So several years later, I went to Occidental College's physics day, and there was a guy who was doing this demonstration. And so I was just all a Twitter because I was going to get a chance to see how it was done. And he did it the reasonable way. He used a cylinder. Eliminates friction, no problem. So I race home after the day is over. I get into Geppetta's workshop, which is what the back room at Polytechnic School is called. And I build this device. And I get it all set up. And I attach. I get my magnetic field all set up. Move that up a little bit. Okay, and let's see. And so I go ahead and I take my ground and I attach it. And I didn't attach the high voltage side yet because I wanted to make sure that this thing was going to work okay. So I go ahead and I put this thing on like so, and I let it roll. Watch closely. Notice anything unusual? I did. It slows down. Okay? The power isn't connected. There's no current flowing through the system, and yet it slows down. So I'm going, because I have no idea what's going on. And this was way, way before the internet and Googling and you know, as a teacher, you're basically out there on an island by yourself. And if you haven't run into this kind of phenomena before, you got to figure it out on your own, which is what I did. I thought about it for a while. But before I did, I thought, well, nuts. I want to at least see if this thing is going to work. So I went ahead and hooked everything up. So I went ahead and made my connection here. So now I have my circuit. And I'm expecting this thing is going to come down. It's going to stop because, magnetic force. So I go ahead and I bring the voltage up. And I let this go. That's not what happened. I forgot to reverse the polarity. This is the second one of these that I did. The first video didn't work. Okay, so if I'd had it set up the way I had it then, the polarity would have been reversed. I would have let it go like so. What the hell? No, I didn't have the voltage up. One more time with feeling. Notice it speeds up. It actually speeds up. So once again, I'm going, what's going on? And it finally dawns on me, I have the polarity wrong. Okay, remember, if you have the polarity correctly set up, the current would be such that it would interact with the magnetic field, it would produce a force that way. If the current's going in the opposite direction, it's going to produce a force that way, and it's actually going to accelerate the object down the incline. So I finally realized, oh, well, that's dumb. So I go ahead and flip around the connection, and now go ahead and let it go. And lo and behold, it stops. In fact, there's actually too much voltage here, so it's actually pushed it back up. But anyway, so that part finally works, and I'm delighted. But I'm still thinking to myself, when this isn't connected, what's going on here? Why does that slow down? So pause for a second and see if you can't figure it out. Okay, you should be back. Let me just tell you. It turns out that what's going on is that as this thing moves into a magnetic field, it does what all metals do when they move into a magnetic field. The magnetic flux changes, it induces an EMF, which motivates charge to flow, and you end up with eddy currents. And the eddy currents interact with the external magnetic field and produce a force that fights what's going on. And what's going on is this guy's trying to get in. And so the force retards the motion and it slows the body down. And so that's what ends up happening. Pretty cool.